Welcome to your reset with Christiane Piano, where the purpose is to support you in releasing all that you are not, so the truth of who you really are can emerge. This is accomplished through working with the body-mind from an ontological perspective. We use various modalities to support you in supporting yourself exactly where you are, so that you may return to an experience of wholeness and ease, moment by moment. Deep reflection is one of the greatest tools through which to do this. To take a moment, to pause, assess, reflect, and literally and figuratively reset, come back to center, and move back into your one and precious life with increased clarity and purpose. Hello, I am Christiane Piano, and thank you so much for tuning in today. This week's reflection is a topic of conversation that in many ways segues directly from our discussion last week on boundaries, as it addresses yet another foundational aspect of body-mind well-being. If you have not yet listened to the episode on boundaries, I suggest you do, as it is something we are building upon in this episode. Boundaries are ultimately an external expression of the internal decision to fully own your choices and your space, and they lead us directly into what it means to own your life. Today we will be reflecting upon this. This ownership, in that deep foundational sense, is a game changer. I've chosen this focus because the connection between our growth and our self-loyalty is a simple yet ever-present reality. As I have shared in past episodes, your personal growth is ultimately determined by how honest you are willing to be with yourself. Taking full responsibility for who you are being is the beginning of self-loyalty. This commitment is what allows you to take full responsibility for your life exactly as it is today, making this ownership the essential and often unseen part of the process. What does this responsibility mean? It means embracing everything, the state of ourselves right now, the circumstances of our lives, and every single choice we have made, the ones we didn't make, and the ones we're still putting off. It means taking an honest look at who we are being without blaming anyone or any situation for it. It's about making a fundamental shift, moving away from explaining why we are the way we are based on our past, and moving toward deeply understanding how the past has shaped us up until now. This leads us directly to the crucial step, being ready to lay that explanation down. If we are constantly holding on to the story of how our past defined us, we cannot move forward. This holding on is a profound form of stuckness. We can be stuck in the past or stuck in how we remember our past, and this very stuckness prevents us from seeing clearly. Part of the process of maturation is not only understanding what has shaped us, but also identifying exactly where this stuckness is held within our bodies and how this shows up in our way of being. When we become self-aware, we have an opportunity to build from our experiences rather than letting them define us, as if our way of being was cemented in stone. Laying it down is giving ourselves permission to blossom throughout our whole lives. This shift allows us to begin seeing and experiencing that we have much more agency than we might currently realize. We are not cemented in stone. Before we dive deeper, let's take a moment to turn this reflection inward. The initial developmental journey of building your life foundation takes years. The choice to examine your context, the second round of maturation, is a deeply personal and conscious choice. How do you feel your past keeps showing up in the present? Where are those old narratives still driving your day-to-day decisions? Where are you struggling to be honest with yourself? Where is the self-betrayal showing up in your choices? Where are you not owning it at present? Is it a relationship, a financial situation, your health? Those are not easy questions to sit with. They point us toward the habits we've built for survival, rather than the life we choose to create. It is exactly in the gap between where we are and where we desire to be that we find the fertile ground for growth. All of these questions point us back to the heart of what this conscious maturation requires of us. It invites us into a deeper, continuous journey of development and self-inquiry. Maturation is a lifelong voyage, and that's why it's such a rich body of work to speak to and explore. I invite you to be infused with curiosity, knowing there is no final arrival. There is just each conscious step we take. The more we are aware of these steps, these choices, these actions, and what is driving them, what context they come from, the more our lives become an act of creation. And this, ultimately, is a deeply personal choice. To mature in this context isn't just about learning different ways of relating to the world outside of you. It's about fundamentally shifting the way you know and identify yourself inside. Now, most traditional developmental psychology would tell us that adulthood is reached when you learn to control your emotional impulses and think rationally. But perhaps human development doesn't stop there. Maybe there's a further maturation, just like the stages before it. A maturation that specifically unlocks this creative agency. For many people, this deeper maturation never occurs. That is why we are speaking to owning our lives, because if we do not, we remain in a state of powerlessness and dependency. This might show up as perpetually waiting for permission to change jobs or end a relationship. It might look like blaming your spouse or job for your stress without acknowledging your choices in the matter. Or it could be the habit of waiting for external validation before you believe in your own ideas or worth. So how do we begin to make this conscious choice for creative agency a reality in our everyday lives? It starts with looking at the source of our actions. Everyone naturally is interested in having the results they want in life. We spend so much time focusing on our external circumstances, but rarely do we look at what is driving them. When you're not getting the results you want, what's your first instinct? Most of us focus on changing our actions. We change partners, we change jobs, or we even change countries. Changing actions can bring temporary relief or improvement, but after a while, that familiar feeling returns. It's like those iron fillings in a magnet. The fillings shift around, but they are still pulled by the same unseen force. This leads us to a different, more profound question. What is the source of action? What did I just say? I know, the questions just keep getting deeper. I'll state that again, and please pause for a moment and think about it. What is the source of action? The answer is context. Context is invisible. It's like the default frame or the invisible setting you look through every single day. You see, context doesn't show up itself, but it's the thing that determines what can appear in your life, the content, your circumstances, and your actions. You never actually see a context. You only see from a context. This is the magnet. Let's break that down. If your underlying context is that the world is unsafe, you will constantly see content that confirms that view. Situations, people, news, and your actions will always be geared toward defense and control. This is the magnetic pull dictating your behavior. If your context is, I am not enough, every compliment will be dismissed and every opportunity will feel too intimidating. If your context is, money is scarce, you will always see debt and limitation, regardless of your actual income. These contexts are the lens through which you experience your life. The world that appears to you is simply the content that context gives you. For instance, if your context is relationships are a trap, changing partners is just changing the content of the trap, you'll still find yourself pulling away or feeling suffocated because the context hasn't shifted. What you see depends entirely on the frame you are looking from. You can change the content, get a new job or a new partner, but the same context, the magnet, keeps pulling you back to familiar patterns. This is the challenging, humbling reality of your current default setting. If we are going to be really honest with ourselves, it is probably fair to say that if you have lived life long enough, you have come to the understanding that discomfort is an inherent part of life. Whether we choose conscious growth or not, discomfort will be present. The difference is that many people would rather sacrifice their relationships and their potential than face themselves and the context they are operating from. They choose the discomfort of avoidance and stagnation over the discomfort of courage and change. The key to stepping into maturation is to fully embrace the conscious journey. This work begins with becoming aware of your repeating patterns. From that awareness, you can consciously choose to do the dedicated, honest work of distinguishing the root context that those patterns come from. When you engage in this work, you naturally begin to own your experiences and the current state of your life, with all that involves. This ability to own your life, to hold yourself accountable, is the hallmark of a maturity. When you stand firmly in this agency, your perspective changes, and you are ready to see the world as it actually is without trying to fix it. This shift means you will also become aware of a difficult reality that often impacts many relationships. As you step fully into your own accountability, you will inevitably encounter people who are not ready or willing to take responsibility for their actions, behaviors, and choices. And this is the challenge. The reason this challenge exists is that you cannot teach accountability to someone who has built their identity around avoiding it. People build this identity when taking responsibility once felt deeply unsafe. If accountability was met with shame or withdrawal in the past, they learned to survive by deflecting, blaming, and controlling the narrative. Avoidance, in many ways, becomes their armor. As adults, that same defense shows up as denial, minimization, or justification. They rewrite events to stay the victim. They intellectualize their behavior instead of feeling it in their body-mind. They distance themselves from the impact they've had on others because facing it would unravel who they believe they are. And when you try to hold them accountable, their defenses activate. If you are someone who feels deep empathy, your nervous system feels that rupture immediately. You sense their discomfort and rush to fix it, perhaps over-explaining, softening, or even taking responsibility yourself, just to restore a sense of connection. But every time you do, you chip away at your own self-trust. You teach your body that feeling safe depends on abandoning yourself. Over time, your nervous system becomes wired for imbalance, hyper-tuned to others, but disconnected from your own center. Empathy without boundaries becomes self-destruction. You cannot save people by abandoning yourself. You cannot love someone into self-awareness. You cannot explain them into accountability. You cannot rescue them from the consequences they refuse to face. All you can do is decide that your energy will no longer be the landing place for their avoidance. I would like to pause here and share a powerful quote with you by Eckhart Tolle that speaks directly to this state. A victim identity is the belief that the past is more powerful than the present, which is the opposite of the truth. Our work is to reclaim the power of the present moment. This is why recognizing the reality that the present requires us to shift our focus entirely from the avoidance we encounter back to our own center and self-trust. Your conscious maturation comes about when you begin to own your ways of being and doing, and own what has shaped you. And then you begin to decide to see it for what it is and what it was, and own who you are and what you are doing fully in all the glory and messiness of living life. No one is perfect. No one has all the answers. And there is something incredibly life-giving about spending time in the presence of people who own their own growth, to put it bluntly. They do the work inwardly to heal from the hurts of the past and decide that their life will be about building from where they are today, aware of what has been, but no longer allowing it to define them. As you grow and develop, the profound shifts begin to unfold effortlessly. As you work with both your body and mind and spend less time in survival mode, you stop looking for safety and comfort in people who are unsafe and uncomfortable with themselves. As your self-betrayal diminishes, you stop expecting loyalty from those who betray themselves. As you become more loyal to yourself and honor your needs, you stop expecting others to create the space for you or give you permission to take time out for yourself. As your courage grows to become more and more honest with yourself, you will no longer look to others to be honest with you who are not being honest with themselves. As your capacity for inner peace and stillness increases within yourself, you will stop looking for that from others who are at war or at battle within themselves. You will begin to see dysfunctional behavior for what it is and know that deep within that it is not yours to fix, solve, or even take part in. As you step into your agency, you begin to allow others to step into theirs. Instead of pouring your precious energy into fixing or changing someone else, you finally choose to pour that energy back into yourself. This is the only place you have agency. This choice is often difficult, but it is the essence of self-definition. As poet Robert Frost stated, never be bullied into silence. Never allow yourself to be made a victim. Accept no one's definition of your life. Define yourself. This act of self-definition and claiming agency, moving out of powerlessness and dependency, is the crucial work of maturation we are discussing. If you are a parent, a teacher, a leader, or anyone creating an environment from families to classrooms to team settings, this conscious choice becomes one of the most profound lessons you can offer. People learn this skill from watching you. Your actions become a guide far more powerful than your words. This is the foundation upon which those around you see that their lives are a creative expression, and that they are the painters if they so choose. Will they pick up the paintbrush and work with a blank canvas again and again? And this profound choice to show up for your own life day after day is not just for them, but for all of us. It's the question we must live into daily. Will I pick up the paintbrush and work with a blank canvas again and again? This commitment to conscious participation has a clear and beautiful effect on our world, creating a profound ripple effect out into the world. Imagine a world in which each person truly owns their story, their actions, and their inner mess. When you choose this path, you begin to cultivate a profound and deepening sense of inner stability. And with that deepening stability, your internal tolerance naturally shifts. You are more aware of where you choose to invest your time and energy, the conversations that are necessary, and the moments when it's simply time to let go. This is the practice of discernment. As you grow and return to center, experiencing increasing balance and a sense of internal wholeness, your capacity for this skill increases. You stop chasing after people who resist growth and avoid their own self-reflection. As you grow, you will begin to experience a shift in your relationship to letting go, and your whole being begins to experience a sense of comfort in that process. As part of what begins to unfold as you consistently choose to mature and consciously develop, is that people who no longer align with you will begin to drop off and disappear, not because something bad or dramatic has necessarily unfolded, simply because the relationship is no longer a fit for the person you are becoming. And you will begin to experience comfort in this letting go process as new people begin to appear with whom a different kind of relationship becomes possible. The more grounded you become, the less you exhaust yourself trying to make someone face what they're unwilling to face. Your body-mind learns it is comfortable and safer to step back than to keep over-explaining to someone who cannot hear you. The more comfortable and safe you feel in your body-mind as a whole, the more you will experience yourself sitting with the grief, sadness, or anxiety that can sometimes accompany the experience of letting go. Sometimes it can feel painful when people fall away, but your body-mind learns that self-respect feels easeful and safe, and you find yourself naturally no longer holding on to dysfunction. This is not about being cold or cutting people off. It is about inner wholeness. It is about understanding that change doesn't come from external pressure. It comes only from an internal decision. Remember, your agency resides in one domain. As Aldous Huxley wisely noted, there is only one corner of the universe you can be certain of improving, and that's your own self. This brings us back to the core challenge. The internal work of maturation is where you focus your energy to begin distinguishing the context that drives your avoidance patterns. Now, this choice to own it is not simple, because our patterns of avoidance are deeply rooted in our context. To begin to distinguish your context, all you need to do is look at the patterns in your life. Observe your repeating patterns and the recurring results they produce. This observation will begin to show you the core narratives that are defining your life. To get to the root of that context and permanently shift the magnet, that is another deeper layer of work. This work of body-mind maturation is precisely what we address. So as we bring our reflection today to a close, consider this. Where are you still choosing the discomfort of avoidance over the courage of self-honesty? This is where you are not owning your life. Is it the work situation you know you need to leave? Is it the conversation with a family member you keep postponing? Is it the realization about a foundational relationship that you are actively avoiding facing? Where is it time for you to finally practice discernment, embody your body-mind agency, and let go? This is not a theoretical exercise. This is a moment to get real with yourself. As Michael Clark reminds us, at some point, you gotta be real with yourself about the gap between the life you want to live and the life that your daily habits are leading you towards. Often what changes the course of life is not indecision or restlessness, but the decision to take a chance on yourself. Dare you fall in love once again with your life? A profound part of the journey of maturation, as we've discussed today, is giving yourself permission to continuously evolve and embrace your full humanity. It is the path of owning who you are being and consciously stepping away from the role of the victim. This process requires a daily commitment to awareness, giving you the opportunity to actively choose how to work with the present reality, then react to the past. This is not about being constrained by a cement block, where change is impossible and circumstances are fixed by constricting narratives. It is the conscious, continuous act of creating with clay, which is soft, pliable, and always open to limitless possibility. When you work with clay, if you try to hold someone accountable and they respond defensively, with denial or deflection, cement, you don't exhaust yourself trying to break through the resistance. You use that moment to disengage from the pattern, remold your boundary, clay, and anchor your energy in inner wholeness. If your old context is fear of abandonment, you don't freeze and retreat, cement. You take the material, your present awareness, and consciously create an act of self-support, choosing agency over the old avoidance pattern. It is the foundational work for creating from all that has led you to this moment, anchoring yourself in your own body-mind agency as you return to inner wholeness. I invite you now to take a moment and reflect. Where in your life do you need to stop treating a circumstance like a fixed block of cement and begin working with the pliable material of clay? This is how the work begins. First, become aware of your patterns. You can start with just one layer or one area of your life. Once you have that awareness, you can then decide whether to engage in the work of getting to the root of that pattern. This is the work of distinguishing your context. It is important to remember that this work is an ongoing process in your life, but there's no rush. Take one layer at a time. As you resolve one, life will present you with the next. This is a gorgeous, life-giving process that leads you to an ever-increasing experience of freedom and spaciousness in your whole being. To shift that magnet and transform your limiting context into one of creative agency, the very how-to of that process requires an understanding of your unique experience and context. That is the deeper layer of work, and that is a core aspect of my one-to-one mentoring and coaching service. I am here to guide you through that specific process of body-mind maturation, supporting you in moving from being defined by your past to consciously creating your future. Thank you for reflecting with me today. If this conversation about body-mind agency and the power of discernment has resonated, and you are ready to move beyond simply seeing your patterns to actively owning your life by transforming the root context that drives them, I invite you to schedule a call to discuss how we can begin this transformation together. You can find the link in the show notes. I also want to thank you for creating this space for reflection today. I recognize the profound intention you bring just by listening to this episode. If you found this supportive, please consider liking or following the podcast and share this episode with anyone you think may benefit from this conversation. I look forward to connecting with you again next week on your Reset Reflections. If you are interested in working with me on any level of body-mind well-being, whether it be through individual body-mind maturation work sessions, perhaps participating in a series, individual privates, or through my video-on-demand services, if you have questions, if you would like to engage on any level, feel free to schedule a free 15-minute consult in the appointment section, www.christianepiano.com, or email me directly at growth@christianepiano.com.